This is the story of Daddy and Mr. Noonan and the disappearing shopping centre, part 2.
I'm so excited.
Now, Daddy and Mr. Noonan had been living in the shopping centre that had been screwed into the ground for 6 months.
What?
And they were starting to get a bit tired of the same old routine and not really seeing anyone. They hadn't heard from the phantasmagorical wizard.
I wouldn't have gotten bored.
Shush! They hadn't heard from the genie. They hadn't heard from anyone. The magic cat hadn't been around trying to cause trouble. No, it was very strange and very boring. So Mr. Noonan came over to the cinema where Daddy had been sleeping and living and eating popcorn and watching movies, watching a lot of Frozen. And he said, are you a bit bored with this lifestyle? And Daddy said, yeah, a bit. Mr. Noonan said, well, why don't we try and get this shopping centre back and try and find out what happened to all the people and the shopkeepers? And Daddy said, that sounds like an excellent idea.
Yeah.
So to do that, they needed to find out what had caused the shopping centre to screw into the ground in the first place.
Yeah.
So they went down into the basement of the shopping centre where they hadn't been yet, and they looked around. They found the heating system. They found the cooling system. They found lots of storerooms where the shops kept all their stock. And then they found a trapdoor in the floor that said, do not enter.
Ooh.
Daddy said, well, that sounds a bit suspicious. What do you think, Mr. Noonan? Mr. Noonan said, I don't know. What do you think? Daddy said, well, let's find out. So they pulled the lever on the door, but it wouldn't open.
What?
So Mr. Noonan said, why don't you use your daddy magic? And Daddy said, okay. So he clapped his hands together 3 times, rubbed them together, and said, trapdoor open.
Trapdoor open.
And with a loud bang, the trapdoor swung open. And blazing out of the hole where the door was this bright, really bright light shining. And they could just see a ladder going down, down, down. So they climbed onto the ladder and started stepping down, and they kept going for quite a while, and they finally came to the bottom. And sitting there was a strange-looking purple frog. And it said, ribbit, 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 so you finally found me.
It's talking.
And Daddy and Mr. Noonan said, oh, gosh, a purple frog. You don't see many of them these days. Mr. Noonan said, no. And they said, well, who are you? And the purple frog said, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I am the purple frog of the shopping centre, and I got sick of all those horrible people coming and shopping in my shopping centre and eating at TGI's and eating food and pooping in my toilets and making a mess. Some kid even vomited all over the trapdoor. Don't know how he found his way down here, but anyway. So I screwed the shopping centre into the ground after everyone had gone home, all the shopkeepers and all the public, and so locked the doors and screwed it down into the ground so they couldn't come again. And Daddy and Mr. Noonan said, well, no, you need to bring it back up, screw it back up, because people need a shopping centre to go to. And the purple frog said, ribbit, 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 you might be right. And but hang on a minute, what's in it for me? Daddy said, what do you mean, what's in it for you? And Mr. Noonan said, typical frogs, eh? And Daddy said, oh, well, no, there's nothing in it for you.
Funny.
Well, then why would I do it? And Daddy said, well, all right, I'll tell you what. We'll perform one piece of daddy magic for you if you screw the shopping centre right back up to the top. And the frog went, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. All right. So the frog jumped up and down, hopped up and down 3 times, hop, 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 and flapped his big fat belly on the ground, flap, 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 and said, shopping centre, screw anti-clockwise and go back up. And up it went slowly and slowly and slowly. And up it went to the very top. It took all the afternoon, but eventually it came right up to the top. And you know what was waiting at the top? Hundreds and hundreds of people and shopkeepers and police and fire brigades. And they said, it's coming back up out of the ground. And they couldn't believe it. And the frog said, there you are. And Daddy said, there you go. Now, what piece of daddy magic would you like? And the frog said, ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. I would like to go on a pleasure cruise for 3 months. And Daddy said, okay, as long as you open the shopping centre and let all the people in, the shopkeepers. So he did that. The frog hopped around and opened everything up and welcomed all the shopkeepers back in, and it was business as usual. Hundreds of shoppers came in, and luckily, because it was just near Easter, and they had to buy Easter eggs and all the things for Easter. And then the frog said, well, I've done everything now, Mr. Noonan and Daddy. Are you ready to send me on my pleasure cruise? And Daddy said, okay. So he clapped his hands together 3 times.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, rubbed them together and said, Purple Frog on a pleasure cruise for 3 months now. And there was a big puff of smoke. And the frog turned into nothing. And the next time they saw him, he was waving from them from a pleasure cruise ship. And off he went.
Another story.
And that's the end of the Disappearing Shopping Centre Part 2.
Another
Say good night, everybody.
Good night.
Say night.
Night, night.